how-to video is caring for your wooden cutting boards and utensils. I've got all my supplies here. I've got a roll of paper towels. You could also use an old rag that's clean. It'll start out clean. It'll get really messy. You're going to end up probably wanting to throw it away. Some sort of mineral oil, food-grade mineral oil. You do not want to use vegetable oil because it will go rancid and you'll end up with a funky smell and possibly germs and mold and other things in your cutting board. So use a food-grade mineral oil. I like the Booze Block oil because it has a little bit of beeswax and vitamin E within it, and it maintains that finish just a little bit longer. The other thing you're going to want is a board cream, and this has a higher concentration of beeswax. If you want to make it yourself, it's 1 cup of food-grade mineral oil with a tablespoon of beeswax. Heat it up, stir it around, mix it really well, and then go ahead and use it while it's warm. When it cools off, it'll be kind of pasty like this one is, and you might have to heat it up a little bit again before you use it, just because it might be too hard to get an even coat. The other thing you're going to need is a sanding block. You could use paper, but I like the block because it's a little bit easier to hold on to and use. This is a 320 grit, so something pretty fine to use to get any little spurs or nicks out of the wood. So the first question is, how do you know when to treat your cutting boards or utensils? And the answer to that really is, depends on how much you use them and what you're doing with them. So you want to look at the color. You can see this one in the back, it's really dark. This has been really well treated. And this one's really light. Actually, I don't think anything's been done with this one in 6 months or so. So we're going to go ahead and give it the full treatment. If it's something that you use every day, then just maintaining it with the mineral oil is going to be enough. You want to use the cream if it's something that you don't use all the time. This is our big roast. You can see where you put a turkey in there. We don't use this a lot, so I go ahead and make sure that that has the beeswax cream on it. And to prolong the amount of time between when you have to treat it, treat these almost like you would a cast iron pan. Don't use a lot of soap, and certainly don't let them soak in the water because that will pull all that oil out. What dish soap does is it breaks down oils and waxes and everything, so that's just going to take all that finish right off of your wood. So I'm going to go ahead, the first step, this is going to take us 2 days to do because you really want, when it's this dry, you can even see it's cracked a little bit here, you really want time for that oil to soak in, to really deeply penetrate. And I've got it on this cookie sheet because we are going to leave it overnight and I don't want it to get oil all over my countertop. So I've got my sleeves rolled up. It gets a little bit messy, and you can use a towel or something to spread the oil around, but I just use my fingers because if you use a towel, you're ending up absorbing the oil back off the wood, and that's not what you want here. So we're going to go ahead and just get that everywhere. We're going to use our fingertips and spread that all out. Like so, until it's fully coated. And I'm going to let that sit. I'm not going to show you this because it was boring. I'm going to let that sit for 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side and make sure you get the ends, these edges, especially this one where the grain is all exposed. So we might have to add a little bit extra oil on there to really get down in there and into all those cracks and things. So you can already see how it's changing to taking on a more golden color here with just the one application of oil. And so on the sanding, while I'm doing this, what you want to do is you've got any spurs or nicks that are coming out because it is a natural product, and as you're using your board, you may get little splinters, little spurs that start sticking out. And you want to oil at least once first before you start sanding those, because the oil is going to soak in. It's going to, number one, soften the wood, and then number two, it's going to raise the little spurs up out of the wood and make them easier to sand off. So I'm going to go ahead and coat this. This is the one my husband uses all the time. And he just dumps it right in the soapy water, so that spatula part of it gets pretty dried out. So I'm I'm gonna go ahead and do that as well while I've got everything out. And I'm gonna let these soak for a little bit and do the other side, and then I will check back in with you guys in the morning for the next step. All right, night. Good evening. We're actually 24 hours since we last shot our video, and I've gone ahead and put 2 more coats on this because it was just sucking up the oil. And you can see now that the color, it's pretty close here to that darker color. And so I'm going to go ahead and wipe the oil off here, the extra. And this doesn't actually need sanding, but I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit to show you how we go about doing that. I just want to make sure that I get most of the oil off of it. And you can see there's still some cracks here in the side. Those are never going to go away. Once they're in there forever. So you kind of want to avoid getting them in the first place, but they are a lot smaller than they were yesterday when we started. So, all right, I've got everything pretty well wiped off there. So when you're sanding, like I said, this is a fine grain, 320 fine grit, 320 grit sandpaper, and you want to go with the grain. You see how the lines are here going vertical in this case. So you just want to very lightly go over top with the grain, and then anywhere that it feels rough until it just smooths out nice and smooth, just like that. Okay, like I said, this doesn't really need it, so I'm not going to do much. So after that's done, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off because I don't want those dust particles to soak back into my board. I want those gone before I put the wax on it, so I'm just going to give it another quick wipe here. And then we're just going to add the board cream. Like I said, this is a blend of oil and beeswax, and we're going to go ahead just like we did. It's pretty thick, kind of paste-like, and we're just going to put some on there. And we're going to go ahead and use our fingers again and give that a nice, even coat. And then we're going to let that sit overnight. I'll go ahead, once I sign off with you guys, I'll go ahead and do the other side. And then I'm going to let that sit again for probably, at this point, because there's school tomorrow and everything, I'm probably going to let it sit for another 24 hours before I finally get a chance to wipe that off. And that's the good thing. If you need to let it sit because you're busy doing something else, it doesn't hurt it. It will all just soak in there. Okay. And yeah, as you can see, make sure you get all of the edges here, especially these raw ones, the grain ends. And that's that. So I'm just going to, like I said, let that sit and then wipe it off tomorrow and we'll be done. Thank you very much for watching. Night.